Hello and welcome to the 94th episode of Common Knowledge, where we take a look at 10 common Magic the Gathering cards, and I'll tell you, are they any good for the Pauper format or not? And then we usually do one or two extra cards, because I just cannot stop myself. We'll start with Wickerbow Elder. Wickerbow Elder is 3 and a green for a 4/4 Tree Folk Shaman, and it enters with a -1/-1 counter on it. You can pay a green and remove a -1/-1 counter from this creature and destroy target artifact or enchantment. Originally from Eventide, and now it's back in Lorwyn Eclipsed Commander, which that makes sense. That's in the Blight deck that they made. Kind of cool, right? I mean, I just, it wasn't that long ago where I played in the Lorwyn Eclipse pre-release and seen a lot of those cards, and those cards are out in Standard right now as I'm recording this anyway. And we're seeing a lot more -1/-1 counter stuff, and also a lot more finding ways of taking those counters off and getting some kind of extra value for it. So I like that it's kind of a double whammy, right? This starts as a 4-mana 3/3, not very good, but you pay an extra mana, and not only are you destroying the artifact or enchantment, now this thing's its full 4/4 power. And then it's okay. 4/4 for 4 mana is all right. That's, the regular rate, but it is a way of removing artifacts or enchantments. And if you have another way of putting more -1/-1 counters on this, and if you're speccing into a deck that is able to do this, you should be able to do this turn over turn over turn. And you can get some real cool value out of this. And you can do this at instant speed too, so you can do a lot of fun tricks with it. I'm interested to see how much Lorwyn Eclipsed is really going to make any sort of effect on Pauper. It didn't initially seem like it was going to, and that's kind of borne out so far at this point. I haven't really seen a whole lot of cards show up in any real lists, and I don't know if we will. But if we did find ways of doing stuff with the -1/-1 counters, I think a card like this could be pretty good. It's still 4 mana to get out initially, and that's not exactly cheap. But it is one of the few cards that starts with the counter and you just take it off and you don't really have to worry about it. It's not something that continues to function with the -1/-1 counters in the way that, your blight kind of creatures do. So it's okay. It's okay. I keep talking about this one, and I really don't need to be talking that much about it. Let's give it I'm going to give it a 3.2. 3.2 seems good to me. Blind Blast is 2 and a red for an instant. Blind Blast deals 1 damage to target creature. That creature can't block this turn, and you draw a card. So it cantrips, and that's okay. Red doesn't draw a ton of cards, and this is a way for it to draw cards. It's probably why it's a little bit more expensive. 1 damage to a creature is not amazing, and then that creature can't block this turn, so either you're killing the creature and it doesn't have to block because it's dead, or you're doing the damage and it can't block this turn, so the damage doesn't really matter because it can't block anymore. So you're not going to trade with it or anything like that. I wish these effects were separated. Blind Blast deals 1 damage to target creature, and target creature can't block this turn. I think then we might have something going. With this, I think it's just too little for too much. So let's give it a still like a not terrible score. Let's give it a 2.3, 2.4 maybe. Keep going. Fist of Flame is 1 and a red for an instant. Draw a card until the end of turn. Target creature gains trample and gets +1/+0 for each card you've drawn this turn. Now, this is an interesting one. And we just said red doesn't draw a whole lot of cards naturally, and this is a way of drawing some more cards. That's kind of cool. Trample's a great ability for red. We like that. And then +1/+0 for each card you've drawn this turn. So you're probably not going to play this in a mono red deck, but if you could play this in an Izzet deck that is drawing a lot of cards, remember Brainstorm is in this format, so that draws you 3 cards. Then you put a couple of them back, but it said you drew 3 cards. So that right there would make this a +4/+0 because this draws you a card as well. Sorry, +5/+0 because you drew a card at the beginning of the turn too. So trample and +5 on your power. That's okay. I think you could find a deck that would use this really well. I don't have one off the top of my head, but I think you could find a deck that plays this really well. I'm going to give this a good score. I'm not super familiar with the metagame when it comes to Izzet. I can't remember seeing a lot of Izzet decks in the meta. I mean, it doesn't have to be Izzet. You could certainly make this Gruul. You know, green has lots of ways of drawing cards too, but blue just draws cards all the time. So that is more what I'm kind of thinking. But I think this is good. I think this is pretty darn solid. I'm going to actually give this a 5.9, I think. Pretty good card. Did that take? No, it did not take. There you go. Now we go. McKindy Ox is 4 and a white for a 4/4 Ox, and it's got landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, tap target creature an opponent controls. I don't love it. 5 mana for a 4/4. Not amazing stats. The landfall ability is fine, but at 5 mana, you've probably played out a lot of the cards in your hand. So how many lands do you have left in your hand to be able to play to get this effect? I just don't think it. I don't think it nets out as often as you want it to in a Pauper game, and I don't think it's all that effective. It's a vanilla 4/4 basically, and I suppose it's a little bit of evasion in that if you drop a land and tap a creature, this thing can attack better. But I still don't love it. I don't really like it. I'm gonna give it a 1.6. 1.6. Samite Herbalist is 1 and a white for a 2/1 human cleric. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you gain a life and scry 1. We looked at a Shoe Farmer an episode or two ago, and that basically is this, except that was a 1/1, and you don't get to scry. Although that creature could tap itself. This creature just has to become tapped, so they're kind of trying to force you into attacking with it. And being a 2/1, it might only get to attack once. Somebody blocks it, this dies. But you did get to gain a life, and you got to scry 1. And you know what? This is actually pretty good if you have any sort of vehicle stuff that you can crew, or if you have a Springleaf Drum. This is a cool thing to do with it. There's stuff there. I don't know if it's impactful enough to really go in a deck, but I could see the mechanics working with each other and making something like this work. I think it's a neat card, but it's not really something that's going to set Pauper on fire. And let's give it a 2. Friendly Teddy is 2 mana for a 2/2 bear toy. It's also an artifact. And when this creature dies, each player draws a card. So it's a grizzly bear. That's an actual bear. We never get that. When it dies, each player draws a card. You generally don't love that. I think there's enough cards that are 2 mana that when they enter play, you draw a card that you'd play over this. Sure, any deck can play this. So the ones I'm thinking, there's green that can do this. There's white that can do this. And I think blue can do this too. I think blue has a way of making this work. Maybe not for 2 mana, but I think so. At the very least, you can make a clue token, and that will draw you later, but slightly different. But this is a way for other decks to have this kind of ability. It's just, it's a grizzly bear that has a dies trigger, and that's not great. If it was an enters trigger, we'd be talking. I don't even know if we'd be talking, honestly, because each player draws a card. You don't really want to give your opponent the card advantage like that, or it's not even really advantage, just it's equal. And why give them extra chances like that? I don't particularly like it. So I'm going to give it a I'll give it a 1.8. Skulking Fugitive is 2 and a black for a 3/4 horror mercenary. When this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. I think there are a couple of creatures that have some kind of effect like this. The one I can think of, that's maybe not most famous, but Phantasmal Dreadmaw, right? Phantasmal Dreadmaw. That's our boy right there. It's like a colossal Dreadmaw, but only costs 4 mana. But when it becomes the target of a spell or ability, you sacrifice it. So I think this is just, if you're gonna go with something like that, you go with this. But this costs 3 mana for a 3/4. Black doesn't have anything that gets this good of stats really for this cost. But there's just too many ways to target in Pauper. And I mean, I don't think a vanilla 3/4 is all that crazy to begin with. I don't really see the deck that this goes in. We'll give it a 1.5. What do we have next? Barrage of Boulders is 2 and a red for a sorcery. Barrage of Boulders deals 1 damage to each creature you don't control, and it also has Ferocious. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, creatures can't block this turn. Interesting. Okay, so this is a one-sided board wipe, kind of, in Pauper. This would be really good against fairies. This could be really good against elves. This could be good against a number of different kinds of decks that go wide. And also really good against go wide stuff. Creatures can't block this turn. So if anything even lives it, you still can smash in with your big guy because nobody's blocking it. I kind of dig this. You know, for 3 mana, generally we're thinking of playing something like Breath Weapon or Fiery Cannonade that is able to do more damage to all the creatures on the board, and those are better board wipes. You have Electrickery that can do either damage to a single creature, or if you overload it for 1 more mana, so it only costs 1 in a red, that deals 1 damage to each creature. And the Festivities does a similar thing. Those are all cheaper effects than this. But I do like the bonus of having a 4-power creature. Very easy to do in Pauper, in red especially. You know, you can get your Writhing Chrysalis to do something like this. Bump its power up to 4 pretty quickly. Lots of different Gruul kind of decks can do this. Some Tron decks can do stuff like this. This isn't a bad card. It is at sorcery speed, which does hurt it a little bit, but not too much. Board wipes are generally at sorcery speed. Now, Breath Weapon and Fiery Cannonade are instants, so it's a little harder to justify this, but I kind of like it. I'm going to give it a halfway decent score. I'm going to give it a 5.4. I think it's playable in Pauper. I really do. Let's take a look at a couple more cards. How about that? Sigil of Sleep is a single blue mana for an enchantment aura that enchants a creature. Whenever enchanted creature deals damage to a player, return target creature that player controls to its owner's hand. This card is not especially cheap. It's only been printed twice, and weirdly enough, the newer version costs way more. I do have a copy of this card. It is in a commander deck I have that uses a Portal 3 Kingdoms commander, Lu Shun, and he's got horsemanship, so you put this on that guy, and he swings in, he hits an opponent, because it's basically unblockable at that point, and you bounce creatures. It's nice. It's a nice little piece of tech. I don't know how useful it is in Pauper. In fact, I think it's pretty bad in Pauper, because either it doesn't give a power toughness boost, it doesn't give evasion itself, so it doesn't really do anything when you play it. Like, it doesn't buff your creature in any way. But also a lot of Pauper decks, a lot of decks in general, but also a lot of Pauper decks don't mind their creatures getting bounced, because it means they get to play them again and again and again. And a lot of those creatures have ETBs or some other kind of effects that are going to be very useful for them to be played again. Cast triggers, things like that. You know, if you we just mentioned Writhing Chrysalis, you bounce a Writhing Chrysalis back to their hand, they get to cast it again, they get the spawns again. That's not great. So I think you're going to find that there are fewer opportunities to use this effectively. It's kind of nice in Commander when you can bounce commanders to their hand, or you can bounce the specific creatures that don't have ETBs or aren't as useful. Tokens are really good. I guess that works in Pauper too, if you can bounce tokens, but not every deck plays tokens. A lot of them do, but not all of them. I don't think this is very good in the Pauper format. I'm gonna give it a 2, but I'm not sure it even really deserves that. It's a very good card, generally. I don't think it's $7.50 or $12 good, but it's a pretty good card. Next up is Naga Oracle. For 3 and a blue, you get a 2/4 Snake Cleric. When this creature enters, surveil 3. Too normal, right? Cool art for sure, but it is just a little too normal. Surveil 3 is okay. 2/4 body's okay. 4 mana's asking a bit much. Yeah, I think 4 mana's asking a bit much. Where do you put it? Does this go in terror? Sure, you can put a few cards in the graveyard, but there's just easier ways of doing it. And this is a creature, so if that ever goes to the graveyard, it doesn't help your instant sorcery count, which is the thing you really care about. It's a halfway decent blocker, but it's just too vanilla. Too vanilla. And I think we're going to give that a 1.8. I think just you have to consider the other options that you have available to you, and you never play this. Let's do a bonus card and get out of here. Oh, it's a Ganjo Exemplar. 1 and a white for a 2/1 enchantment creature that is a human samurai. Whenever a samurai or a warrior you control attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. This is not all that special. I just really like Kamigawa. I like Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. And I did play a samurai deck, an Orzhov samurai deck, in Standard that I liked quite a bit. It was cheap. It was fun. It didn't do a heck of a lot. This does have an alternate art, which is pretty cool too. I like this regular art. I think that looks just fine. And it's okay. It was a decent piece there. I like that it's an enchantment as well. That gives it a little fun extra value. It can buff itself when it goes in and attacks. That's kind of nice if it attacks alone. But you're mainly going to put that bonus on another creature that is a better samurai in the standard deck that I played. In Pauper, not a heck of a lot of samurais going around. Some warriors. I bet you could find some warriors that this would work with, but generally the 2/1 I don't think helps this out much. You just have things that you can play for 2 mana that are better, that are just better. Maybe shapeshifter stuff, changeling guys could take advantage of this, but not a whole lot of changelings that are big. Not a whole lot of big changelings that you want to attack in alone with. And that's also an issue. So I don't know. I don't think it's very good in Pauper. And also I think the enchantment part works a lot worse for it in Pauper as well. I think it makes it much easier to remove, even though I don't think your opponents are going to care too much that you played this. They're going to feel like you gave them a turn off most of the time. So not very good in Pauper. Let's give it a... it's still functional. Let's give it a 2.1. And we'll call it there. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.